About a year and a half ago, I got a chance to go down to Florida to the Kissimmee Airport and fly a dual-controlled Mustang. And basically, this was the way that they operate. It's like a flying lesson. It's what pilots would consider an intro flight. In other words, the instructor is there. You do most of the actual flying, but what you don't realize at the time is that if you get into any trouble, the instructor is going to bail you out. So it's a very empowering feeling because you're actually flying, but yet your flying abilities are kind of enhanced because it's actually two of you flying and not just one. Here we are, we're going through the pre-start checklist, and then we're going to start up the engine. We're giving the high sign to start, and here we go. That is a huge engine up there and a big propeller. It is so impressive just to be in this airplane. It just was a huge thrill. I'd do it again in a second. If I had an unlimited income, I'd be down there every single day flying that thing. That was so much fun. All right, we're getting ready to take off here. We went through a pre-flight checklist, or checking all the controls, which he allowed me to do some of. He did some of. Instructor's name is Homer. So we're getting ready to take off. He did the takeoff. Homer actually did the takeoff. This is the hardest part of the whole flight, especially with a Mustang. So I was happy to have him do that. But basically, as soon as we took off, he handed me over the controls, and then I did most of the work after that. Again, now you really can, at this point, everything was pretty normal up till now, and once that engine gets up to full takeoff power, it gets really loud in the cockpit. I had a very nice set of, a nice headset, and that did not, as a matter of fact, I had earplugs in to try to control the noise level, because you need basically two sets of hearing protection. This is a huge thrill. Check out that landing gear coming up there, very smooth. This is an outstanding, I can't just stress it enough. This is a huge thrill to be doing this. And if you ever get a chance to do something like this, I highly recommend it. You don't need to be a pilot. Again, you still do most of the flying, but just like any intro flight. So if you go to an airport, take a flying lesson, you say, I want to sign up for flying lessons. They say, okay, let's have you, take off for your first flying lesson. And they let you do most of the flying, and it's amazing how well you do. When you get done with your first flight, you're like, I can so do this. I can do this, and I'm gonna do it. And that's what they want. And but it makes it a great experience. Here I am flying through a cloud, which was pretty thrilling. Your brain wants to wander. When you go through there, you're like, should I be going left or right or whatever? And you kind of have to override your brain and say, just hold it steady. Okay, here we're going to start lining up. We're, I don't know, 11,000 feet at this point, up over the clouds. Beautiful Florida weather. And as we go around here, here we're even higher still. I take it back. We were probably at about 8,000 feet before. Now we're up to about 11,000 feet. Now we're going to start turning, and what I learned in the Mustang, this is a cockpit that's quite a bit more snug even than a 172. So like with a 172, you always have room behind you, and in my case, I was sitting on the back wall of the fuselage. So I was sitting back there. There's no room for my elbows, and I'm kind of a tall guy. Yep, I said it's a long nose. That is a very long nose. I'm not used to that. And as we're going left and right, making these turns, what I learned is that my right turns, I always dip below the horizon. The left turns, I could be right on the money. I was holding altitude just perfectly. And I think part of that was because my right hand is on the stick, and I couldn't quite, my elbow was hitting the back of my seat, and I could not get a good pull going right. Now, I don't know if other pilots have noticed that with the Mustang or not, but because I was in the back seat, it was my right turns were not nearly as good as my left turns, and maybe it was because I'm used to flying with my left hand and working the throttle with my right, and this was the opposite. I don't know. I've flown other tailwheel airplanes, so I can't explain it, but I thought that was weird. My right turns and left turns were different. That's the first time I've ever noticed that. Okay, as we come up here to get ready to stall, you can see the nose is getting really close to is getting higher and higher, and now it's shaking, and here we go. We're stalling the airplane. That shake was the buffet. So when you hear somebody say buffet in an airplane, pilots know buffets are getting ready to stall. All right, and as we're coming up over the top here, this was just the aerobatics were a blast. But one of the things that you can't see from the video was the G's that we were pulling. So here, as we're coming up over the top, we're almost 0 G's. Now we come down. Now you can feel a lot of pressure on the seatbelt, and as we come around here, all the pressure on the seatbelt is gone, and you're being forced into the bottom of the seat. You weigh, on that pullout, you weigh about 4 times your own body weight. Imagine carrying somebody on your back and another one of you on your front. That's 3 G's, okay? So that's a lot of weight to be carrying. It's an amazing feeling. So the G's that you feel are really incredible. Okay, here we are. We're coming in. What we did was we briefed a low pass over the runway, a brake midfield, and then a turnaround to land. So here we are on speed, on altitude. Everything is ready. I'm flying. We come across the field, and the air traffic control calls our brake. And there we're braking, and Homer is telling me to turn tighter and tighter and tighter, and so I'm trying to do what he tells me to do. And here is where things go wrong. Okay, I come across here, I'm a little high and a little fast. So now we're on what we would call like a short downwind. So we're flying downwind parallel to the runway, and we're getting ready to line up for the landing. You can see he's extending the flaps, but we are high and fast, and we have to give the airplane time to decrease altitude. So he has me turn away from the runway. This is where a good landing is set up way before final approach, and here's where where that landing kind of goes wrong. So I'm turning as if I was where I was before. I mean, I have that programmed into my head. I know how I kind of have a good feeling for the airplane at this point. I'm turning, but you'll see what happens here when we line up to the runway. I'm on the right edge of the runway.
Take your time, small movements, okay.
We're coming around.
Doing awesome. A little bit of back pressure is okay.
And look at that. I turned early. I leveled off early. See how much further to the right we are than we should be? We should be right down the center of the runway. Homer is actually helping me correct. So we're actually going to be moving to the left a little bit here. And I didn't realize it at the time that he had helped me, but he was actually telling me on the radio that he was helping me. Here we are to land. I am landing. So we're on the right end of the runway. See, we're not lined up with the center line, and that was my fault for being high and fast on the downwind. Okay, I'm afraid of going back in the air, so he's telling me tail down, tail down, tail down, and I was trying to be cautious. I did not want to get back into the air. You know, you don't want to point the nose in the air and then end up off the ground again. And right about here is where I learned how hot the cockpit is in a Mustang. Wow, I had sweat dripping off of me. It was unbelievable. Okay, to wrap up, the Mustang has an almost complete lack of yaw. Or adverse yaw. It's unbelievable. Awesome airplane to fly. Very good slow flight characteristics. It is extremely loud, and communication with Homer was extremely difficult at times. It was very difficult to communicate with him. And lastly, the importance of a good approach, setting it up on downwind. I really screwed up there. Fortunately, Homer bailed me out, and everything turned out fine. Great flight. See my other videos in the description. And I sincerely hope that you get a chance to do this. It is an incredible experience. Thanks for watching.
A helmet, a skid lid,